I think beauty points to the existence of God and gives some clues as to what God might be like. Hi, I'm Marcus and I've written a short chapter about beauty in my book, The God Puzzle. I've also made it into an animated video, but here I want to explore a few more thoughts. Peter Jackson's 2005 movie King Kong was full of exciting action, but there was a quieter moment that made me stop and think. Kong takes Anne Darrow up a mountain and they watch the sunset together. She tries to teach him the word beautiful and they sit and enjoy the view. I guess it's designed to show the monster's human side, his soul. There is a similar moment in the even more action-packed Kong reboot, Skull Island, where Kong stares up at the northern lights. Now, as far as I can tell, no animal prizes beauty the way we do. Beauty, that is, detached from utility. I wouldn't quite go as far as Oscar Wilde, who said all art is quite useless, because technically efficient solutions can be beautifully elegant ones. Whether it's the way fluid dynamics determines the sleek aerodynamic curves of a sports car, or the way mathematics so precisely and concisely describes much of our world, or the way flowers seem to attract bees so successfully. He's right, though, to point us past functionality to something behind and beyond it. Kong stares upwards away from his hostile island world, through the sunset to the transcendent. In Les Miserables, Victor Hugo describes 4 plots in the bishop's garden. In 3 of these, he said, Madame Magloire cultivated vegetables. In the 4th, the bishop had planted some flowers. Madame Magloire had once remarked with a sort of gentle malice, Monsieur, you who turn everything to account have nevertheless one useless plot. It would be better to grow salads there than bouquets. Madame Magloire, retorted the bishop, you are mistaken. The beautiful is as useful as the useful. He added after a pause, more so perhaps. Have you ever wondered why we find flowers beautiful? Oscar Wilde reckoned that a flower blossoms for its own joy. We gain a moment of joy by looking at it. That is all that is to be said about our relations to flowers. But I think there's more to be said. I think a flower blossoms to point us beyond itself, to the source of all beauty. Flowers don't just blossom for bees. I know some would frame our appreciation of beauty in terms of evolution, the idea being we have evolved to be attracted to certain patterns for their survival benefit, which does make a lot of sense in many ways. Others, though, point to a few possible problems with this, like how come we find dangerous things like tigers beautiful? How come we share a bee's appreciation for a flower's beauty? And I often wonder why the sky is so breathtakingly beautiful, both the night sky and looking up at the clouds during the day. Now, the world is strangely coherent, so I wouldn't be at all surprised when we get some way towards answering these questions. In fact, you might already be able to answer them to some degree. Yet no scientific theory will ever bear the weight of the wonder I experience looking at a tiger's face, or up at the sky, or through the Hubble telescope. Now, I've only in person done 2 of those things, I have to say, but nevertheless my screensaver shows me stunning pictures from all around the world. Obviously they're chosen because they look especially good, but really the photographer is just framing the beauty that is all around us, drawing our attention to it. We get used to it, but a well-taken photograph or a painting allows us to see it with fresh eyes and recapture the wonder we once had. Often we are either too familiar with the sights around us, or they are blotted out by the brightness of modern living. In 2018, Laura Trier rode 3,000 miles across the Atlantic Ocean. Describing her experience, she said, "Through the toughest times, Mother Nature always rewarded us for our efforts. Visits from dolphins and whales, we saw breathtaking sunrises, double rainbows, shooting stars that burned so bright they looked like fireworks. The Milky Way was so clear and so bright the stars merged together into a solid band of light. And who even knew that a moonbow existed? A rainbow in the night, sparkling various shades of grey, glistening under the light of a full moon. This morning is this very special morning because over here we have a moonset and over here we have a sunrise." Why is our world filled with such natural beauty? Perhaps the term Mother Nature is just an imaginative turn of phrase, but could it not also arise from an instinct in us that the beauty we see has a personal source? Even though some scientists reject a creator God, they nevertheless still experience the breathtaking beauty of creation. In his book, Unweaving the Rainbow, Richard Dawkins writes, "The feeling of awed wonder that science can give us is one of the highest experiences of which the human psyche is capable. It is a deep aesthetic passion to rank with the finest that music and poetry can deliver. It is truly one of the things that makes life worth living, and it does so, if anything, more effectively if it convinces us that the time we have for living is quite finite." I'll come back to that last point about death in just a moment, but for now I want to note how, as a scientist, he sees so much beauty in the world. While he sees evolution as the explanation, I don't think that the evolutionary story is particularly compelling as a way of explaining the total set of my artistic and aesthetic experiences. The night sky and Beethoven's Ninth are examples of something real, a non-arbitrary category that is something that comes from somewhere. Now, I know this is not a tightly reasoned argument. Dawkins, in fact, has called it, or the argument from beauty, unconvincing and vacuous, but I know there's something here. All I can do is point beauty out as an experientially real thing that seems more than a marker for the merely beneficial. My hope in doing so is that you'll see it too, perhaps in the markings and motions of a tiger, and join William Blake in asking, what immortal hand or eye has framed thy fearful symmetry? But it doesn't have to be something as spectacular as a tiger. I was listening to a recording of Os Guinness the other day. Os Guinness is an author, and in case you're wondering, yes, he's descended from the founder of the famous brewing company. But anyway, he was talking about G.K. Chesterton, who recalled being stopped in his tracks by a dandelion. Os Guinness then makes this comment. He says, "There are lots of dark things in the world, ugly things, but there are also beautiful things. Here was something so simply beautiful, so wonderful, that caused him to seek an answer to its existence." I wonder, have you ever been stopped in your tracks by a dandelion? We don't have to become a scientist or paddle to the middle of the ocean to encounter beauty. We just have to stop and, like Chesterton, linger a little longer at the ordinary, everyday wonders all around us. Os Guinness's mentor, Peter Berger, calls these things signals of transcendence. And when I heard that phrase, I thought, that's it. That's exactly what my God puzzle pieces are. Signals of transcendence, pointing us to something, to someone beyond our world. When you're trying to get somewhere new, somewhere you've never been before, perhaps a new classroom or a lecture hall or a place of work, it's easy to doubt yourself. Am I going the right way? Have I made a wrong turn somewhere? Have I got the time right? Well, it's a massive encouragement to see other searchers ahead of you going in the same direction, especially if you know them to be smart and capable people. That's why I was reassured to find others like Chesterton and Berger ahead of me on the God Puzzle trail, and even more so when I came across the following by C.S. Lewis. In pointing people to the source of beauty, he writes, "I am trying to rip open the inconsolable secret in each one of you, the secret which pierces with such sweetness, the secret we cannot hide and cannot tell, though we desire to do both. We cannot tell it because it is a desire for something that has never actually appeared in our experience. We cannot hide it because our experience is constantly suggesting it. Our commonest expedient is to call it beauty and behave as if that had settled the matter. But the books or the music in which we thought that beauty was located will betray us if we trust to them. It was not in them, it only came through them. And what came through them was longing. These things, beauty, the memory of our own past, are good images of what we really desire, but if they are mistaken for the thing in itself, they turn into dumb idols, breaking the hearts of their worshippers. For they are not the thing in itself, they are only the scent of a flower we have not found, the echo of a tune we have not heard, news from a country we have never yet visited." He goes on, "Do you think I'm trying to weave a spell? Perhaps I am, but remember your fairy tales. Spells are used for breaking enchantments as well as for inducing them, and you and I have need of the strongest spell that can be found to wake us from the evil enchantment of worldliness which has been laid upon us for nearly 100 years. Almost our whole education has been directed to silencing this shy, persistent, inner voice. Almost all our modern philosophies have been devised to convince us that the good of man is to be found on earth. And yet it is a remarkable thing that such philosophies of progress or creative evolution themselves bear reluctant witness to the truth that our real goal is elsewhere. He goes on, lest your longing for the trans-temporal should awake and spoil the whole affair, they use any rhetoric that comes to hand to keep out of your mind the recollection that even if all the happiness they promised could come to man on earth, yet still each generation would lose it by death, including the last generation of all, and the whole story would be nothing, not even a story, forever and ever. As if we could believe that any social or biological development on this planet will delay the senility of the sun or reverse the second law of thermodynamics. Lewis put it far more eloquently than I ever could, but he is essentially saying the same thing. Beauty points us beyond its manifestation in this world to another. Its tantalizing imperfection reawakens in us a desire for the perfect. Yet there are philosophies and forces working to keep us short-sighted so that we don't look through and beyond the immediate and the material, so that we don't look beyond the sunrises and the stars and the flower petals and the living cells. A spell is cast upon us so powerful in its effect that many, like Dawkins, frame our future death as life-enhancing instead of the worldview-shattering hammer blow it should be to humanism. Tim Keller, the American pastor and theologian, insightfully said, religious people find God useful. Christians find God beautiful. We use God when we see God ultimately as a way of gaining something for ourselves. Perhaps it is social standing, or looking or feeling like a good person, or controlling others, or even gaining eternal happiness. It's a subtle point, but well made, that actually Christianity says something more. Ultimately, a Christian has seen the beauty of God in Jesus Christ and is totally captivated by him. That's what we were created for. Yes, in Jesus we can find forgiveness and have a cleansed conscience and eternal life. But what is eternal life? It goes on forever, obviously, but that doesn't make it a good thing in itself. It's good precisely because it's being with God, knowing him and seeing his glory, enjoying who he is, receiving his love, yes, but marveling at and worshipping the one who loves in such a glorious way, living in awe of that which is most awesome. It's my firm conviction that only the glory of God can fill us up eternally with never-ending wonder and joy, a joy that is a fitting side effect of a heart fixed on Jesus. The late Roger Scruton summed up much of what I'm trying to say here like this. If you consider only utility, the things you build will soon be useless. But put beauty first, and what you do will be useful forever. We have more than practical needs. The experience of beauty is calling us to the divine. I don't think beauty is just in the eye of the beholder. I think it's in the nature of our Creator. I believe beauty points us beyond the universe to God, who has expressed himself so gloriously in his creation and is himself supremely beautiful. The late psychologist David Powlison insightfully pointed out that glory is a synonym for beauty. Glory is the visible outshining of God's invisible, intrinsic excellencies, and I am convinced that something of God's glory still shines out of this dark world, like the lights of an airport runway leading us to him.